Okay, so Patrick's stream inspired me to do my own stream of Dwarf Fortress. And so I had started a game earlier today, which is much less difficult than Patrick's Evil Biome game. And so I will talk through it and just play for about a half an hour probably until everything falls apart. So here is our world. We have a river. We have a nice sandy area with no trees whatsoever. We have a volcano, which, can you guys see the mouse? I don't know if you can see the mouse or not. We have the volcano here, which has already been tapped and channeled and is ready for forging. Unfortunately, we don't actually have any minerals yet to do any kind of interesting forging. We're dug into the side of a mountain here. A couple doors. This is the rumpus room here, where we've got a carpenter's workbench and a mason's shop and a crafts dwarf's workshop. I'm getting distracted by the music, so I'm going to turn it down. Sorry. I have no replacement music, so you just have to listen to my dulcet tones. Alright, on the other side here, we have basically the rooms that we done set up when we walked into the fortress. So this is our dormitory, with only 7 beds. No, it doesn't look like Dark Souls. It's true. Oh my goodness, you're right. It does say Dark Souls 3. Thank you. Fortress. Thanks, Pete. I can't tell if it will change. There we go. So I only have 7 beds, which is funny because I've already had my first migrant wave. And for some reason, oh, because I'm there. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 dwarves. So I'm going to have to build some bedrooms for them soon. This is Patrick. I don't know if I actually renamed it. Did I save it after I named it? I have to rename him. This is our chief medical dwarf. He's named after Patrick. What happened was, this guy just had some profession that I didn't particularly need, even though he was one of my embarked dwarves, so I made a mistake there. So I made him the chief medical dwarf, which largely involved doing nothing. And then someone was actually hurt through a way I will tell you about. And immediately the chief medical dwarf headed off to the bar to drink and not treat the guy. So, you know, there you go, Patrick. This room here has food storage and some stairs that are going down. This room here is our indoor refuse stockpile. I knew I did have a refuse stockpile. And down here, this is basically just furniture storage and some other garbage. And over here, not connected to the fortress directly, we have our trade depot, which we can check should be accessible. Yes. So going down a Z level, down 1 level we have our farm. And then you see this line on this side. I'll explain what that is in a little bit. So right now we're only growing a few crops. It is summer, late summer, and I think I'm pretty much out of seeds at this point. Well, I have some plum helping seeds, so let's go ahead and plant those. Down a Z level from the farm, we have basically our food processing room. This is an idea that I stole from Patrick watching his stream. When I used to play this game, I would always build these kind of large, sprawling fortresses with everything very far away from each other. And what happens is when you get above a certain size, your guys spend all their time running back and forth. And so, you know, that doesn't work too well. So in this room, what have we got? We've got a bunch of workshops. We've got a butcher's shop, a wood furnace, an ashery, I don't know how it is having a wood furnace and an ashery indoors. A mechanic's workshop. For the first time, I embarked without anyone who could build mechanisms. This is a bit of a problem. Soap maker's workshop, kitchen, a still, very important, a tanner's shop, and a loom, which is something I normally don't build, but I figured why not. So let's go down another level. And this is where we actually start to get a little bit organized. So this room down here is our hospital. Needs a lot more stuff in it, but it actually has the essentials. We can check our hospital information there. So we got lots of thread and cloth and splints and crutches and buckets and soap. That was my big deal, was I made soap. I never know why I make soap, because usually I find if someone's injured enough that you need soap for them, they're already going to die, but I figured I'd do it by the book. Over here, this is our manager's office with just a chair in it. And this room is intended to be the barracks, but I'm still waiting for these guys. Oh, there's my armor stand. So I'm going to go ahead and place an armor stand. Yes, I built a little inlet for my trade depot. I've found in the past that, very often enough you could, if you're in an area where there's a lot of goblin attacks, then basically every opening to your fortress is potentially a site of attack. And so like here, even with having the 2 doors that they can come in, that's too many. If you're in a place where there's a lot of goblin attacks, then what I eventually usually end up doing is doing a kind of Mott and Bailey thing with multiple walls, sometimes a little maze. But if you do that, then it's difficult for the traders to get to you. So I build this little inlet, and then eventually you can build like a hallway from the inlet into your fortress if you want, once you're ready to trap it up. Or you could just make people go outside and walk the 50 yards. It's not that big a deal. If you have bins, which I don't. Yeah. All right. And then up here, this is our inn. Our inn is very exciting. It has 2 chairs and 2 tables. That's it. I don't know what else to put in. I'm still, I haven't really ramped up production on really pretty much anything yet. But we already have a few visitors, so let's take a look at them. Who do we have here? I guess I'm going to do that. Q. Why don't I see them? V. There we go. We've got a human maceman, Sizit Embraced Lead. A medium-sized creature prone to great ambition. And, I guess if you're nice enough to these guys, or if they get drunk enough, they might decide to stay in your fortress, which is very exciting. We have a bard. I hear a lot of tell about poetry, but I don't actually know how to find out about these various poetic forms. So, Patrick, if there's some way I can find out what the bard is singing about, I'd love to hear about it. And then over here, I think we have one more guy. Here he is. This is a human, as he told me. I can't tell. Others. Human bowmen. Yeah, so they're hanging out and socializing in our awful fortress. So down a level, this is where we're going to build, so I'm tempted to put bedrooms here, individual bedrooms. So dwarves in Dwarf Fortress can get upset and happy over many, many things. One of the things that can upset them is noise. So the best practice, theoretically, is to separate your bedrooms from the places where you're doing work by a few levels, by a certain number of squares. In practice, I think the bonus for having bedrooms at all probably outweighs the penalty for them being near work. And it probably is, having to walk further is always bad. So I may just turn this into the bedroom level and not worry about it too much. Patrick says I need containers in my inn. I don't think I have any coffers yet, but let's put one here. Let's let him put things down. We have a pigtail bag, and we'll put a giant cave spider cloth bag on the other side, leaving a really big space for dancing, which Patrick tells me is super important. So let's go down. So now we're going to get something interesting. So then I had my miners go ahead and drill, just basically drill down until you find something interesting. So we're going down, 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 and you can see we get to this freaky cave area. So normally, in a game where I had everything I needed, I would make note of the cave area and route around it and never go in. But in this case, I have no wood. And I need some wood because I need to build beds. So what I've done here is I've made this little hallway. I found an area of the cave that looked relatively safe. There were no incredibly evil monsters there. There's a few things that are akin to a crocodile in this area, and there was like one troglodyte. So what I did was I've got these doors down here. They are currently sealed shut. But as needed, basically when I need wood, I designate some wood in this area, unlock the doors. Everyone runs in, gets a bunch of webs to make cloth from, gathers some plants. There's all sorts of plants down here. And, I sent my one soldier in to kill a troglodyte, which he did. He did great. And one of my farmers, while collecting plants, got injured. We have this nice vein of gold in here, so I will be going back in here on an as-needed basis, and this is where I expect a lot of the early game fun to come from. All right, so let's jump back up. You go to the jobs page, Patrick says, to find out about poetic forms. Let's try that. Jobs. Examine jobs. I don't see the examine job button. View job. Oh, I see. So these are just their various jobs, and if one of them was telling a story, there would be a job, tell story, which would explain the poetic form, I guess. Well, I can't wait for that to happen. That's going to be really exciting. All right, so what happened? Well, one of my farmers got injured. Basically just a flesh wound, nothing too serious. So he goes to the hospital, and there's nowhere for him to lay down in the hospital because I had no bed there. So he just kind of stood over the bag and looked sad. And no one brought him any water because I hadn't designated any water zones. So I went and designated a water zone, and they came. And eventually, after Patrick was done at the bar, he did end up coming back and cleaning the guy off a bit and sent him on his way, and he was fine. But that made me realize that I had no water, rather that to get water I had to send people all the way out here in the wild world over to the river. So obviously that's not going to do. So what do we do here? We dug out this little square area here, right in the center of the screen where the yellow X is. And we dug a pit, dug a channel there. Then we dug a stair over here. This is a nice channel that we dug all the way to the river. And then I guess we're ready at this point. I will designate this tile up here, one level above this. We're going to dig a little channel. 1, 2. So why did I go all this trouble? One, it's good. It looks better to not have it this long channel sticking out here. I don't have to worry about bridges or anything. Although I guess one might want a water channel to try to stop people, but I don't think too much. But really, again, this is just trying to minimize the amount of entry points into the fortress. So in this case, I don't think it matters. Actually, I'm going to delete that designation. And I'll show you how to do it if you want to be super, super type A about it. And I mean, that's my middle name. So what we'll do is we'll go over here to our mason. And I'm going to build a grate. A rock grate. There we go. Great. Hopefully that'll work and stay. Right on this screen. No, I don't think I can go to the right on this screen. Unless I can do it from this one. Guess socialize, view activity. This organizational activity will branch into specific social events. Okay. I don't think it's telling you very much right now. So I think he's not telling a story right now. All right. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to build that grate. We will then come over here. We will put the grate probably just south of the stairs here. And then we will tap into the channel. And what that will do is that should prevent any beasties in the river from coming into our fortress. Like I said, it's probably not a huge risk. If I wanted to be super type A, going over here to where we tapped into the volcano, I would have done the same thing with a magma safe grate in the magma. And that way, if there are any magma creatures in the volcano, they would be caught by that grate or prevented from entering by the grate. But I'm not really too worried about it. I didn't see anything there. It's not an evil area, so what have you. All right, so what else do we need to do? Well, I need to make some more beds. Here are the jobs I have queued up. Looks like I've got 6 beds. Can I change the number? I'll just make a new order. Construct bed. We'll make, I don't know, 15 beds. We'll need them sooner or later. Not 10. All right. So you notice the game is still paused at this point. So let's have our miners, who I think are mostly idle at this point. They're doing non-miner things. Let's just go ahead and build a bunch of really annoying small bedrooms. Sometimes I'm really organized about the design. For this one, I'm just going to throw them together. They're going to have, I don't want that actually, I'll have to do something like that. And make these a little bigger. These are the dwarves who we actually like. They'll get the big rooms. And the peasants who are just hauling will get the smaller rooms. If you want to make them happy, you could put things in here besides beds. You could put in, you know, a coffer, a cabinet. And your dwarves will come and look at their coffer or cabinet. They'll get a little happy thought instead of getting stressed, worried about how to pay for things. One of the interesting things about Dwarf Fortress is there's a game economy. And that's probably good, so I'm going to let things go here. Pause. There's an in-game economy in the sense of you're building different things. What there's not is the dwarves paying each other. In an earlier version of the game, a long time ago, back when, even before there was 3D, they had coins. I think they still have coins in the game. And all I know about coins is that everyone says don't build them because they cause inflation and then everything goes wrong. And I don't really know the details about that or whether that's still true. But that was always the received wisdom. All right, I keep messing up here and pausing the game. All right, there go my guys. So I should say a word about the tile set. This tile set is called Mayday. I'm unhappy with all the tile sets and all the text-based tile sets and all the graphics-based tile sets. None of them look any good. This is the only graphic tile set I found that I can even tolerate. Really what I want is a text-based tile set that's completely huge so that when I look at it on a retina screen like this, I can actually still read it. But I have not managed to do that yet. So let's see what's happening here. These guys are going. Do I have any idlers? No idlers. Oh, they're socializing. It's so cute. The carpenter is not doing anything, which is really interesting given that I gave him a lot of work. Oh, there, he was going to eat. So let's see if they're socializing now. So what are we doing? Guest socialize. New activity. Nope. Nothing yet. Hey, Eric, how you doing? Oh, listen to poetry. Thank you. I do like my hat. There we go. Okay, we have our first poetry. I'm so happy. Before I read this poetry form to you, this is in fact, I normally don't wear a hat, Yeah, I'm not just hiding my bald head. But this is my Pokemon catching hat. And since everyone's all about the Pokemon, I figured I would share my Pokemon catching hat. The performance is at the first line. The sun sets on Bin is an example of the Saturnine lenses. The work has no particular subject. The writing has rare but particularly exquisite turns of phrase, yet it has a hint of viciousness to it. Overall, the poetry is masterful. The Saturnine lenses is a poetic form originating in the branded unions. That's, I guess, a civilization. The rules of the form are applied by poets to produce individual poems, which can be recited. The poem is a single couplet. Each line has 5 feet with a tone pattern of even, uneven, even. Every line of the poem has a medial caesura. It's got to be caesura. The ending of each line of the poem shares the same rhyme. The first line is a riddle and intended to describe the past. The second line is solemn and intended to reflect on previous ideas concerning current events. So there you go. The sun sets on Bin. Oh, and this guy's reciting poetry. The militia commander. I'm so happy. The militia commander is the one who is reciting the poetry. And it looks like whether you look at the recite or listen, it's the same. Okay. So what's the base of our economy? We have another Maceman who's visiting. Well, assuming we ever get a caravan, which at this point is kind of questionable, then we've been making these crappy rock crafts. You can see here there's a bin full of them. And we've got all this stuff here. And we're just going to trade those at minimal amounts for whatever we need. And right now what we really need is wood. The other thing we need is booze. We're kind of running low on that. I always make barrels, but earlier tonight Patrick told me that I was crazy for making barrels and I should actually be making pots. So let's make some pots. Let's construct is it a rock pot or a stone pot? Make rock pot. Is there a stone pot also? Glaze stone pot. I don't want to glaze it. I want to make it. Rock pot. What's a rock pot? All right, we're going to make, I don't know, rocks are plentiful, so let's make like 40 of them. Start with 40. All right, so that's going. We are unpaused. I find the text view to be so much more interpretable than these graphics. I gotta say, like, I look at this and I can barely tell what's going on because all the textures of the different types of floors are confusing me. But we'll roll with it for this one, and maybe by the time I do my next stream, if I do another stream, I will have found a text tile set that works. So they're digging out our bedrooms. We'll go ahead and put, I should have some beds by now. So we'll put the cheap seats over here. Just going to put some beds right there. Put one here, here, here. And I'm not waiting until they're finished, but because I really am short of beds, and that's a problem. Here. Oh, I did not want to put this one. Let's take that up. This one I'm going to put a chair in because that's going to be an office. And how many beds do I have left? I want to save one for, I'll save 2. So Patrick, you said you can put beds in for visitors. Does one just put them in the inn, just like in the middle of the floor? Do you need to give them like their own special little rooms or what? Caesura. Caesura, I never heard of a caesura. Sounds like a southern priest struggling with the word seizure. And he had a caesura. So we've put some doors in here. And now if we wait, for those of you who haven't seen how Dwarf Fortress works, we've designated there, these guys are carrying beds, they drop them. And they should do the same thing with doors. All right, so now what do we have here? So we have some bedrooms. You can, in this case, this is a rare instance where Dwarf Fortress will do the right thing without you telling it to. If we leave these alone, then when a dwarf wants a room, he may just come claim it. Again, because I'm kind of type A, sometimes I would go here, and you could say, turn this into a bedroom. This bedroom is very cheap. It's cheap because it's small, it's cheap because there's not a lot in it that's valuable, and it's cheap because it shares a wall with another bedroom. There are ways to make them better. Most of your guys don't really care if they're cheap. Eventually, you may get nobles who will demand certain qualities of rooms. So now that I've declared that this is a bedroom, this is a bedroom, it's all good. People will come take them. But you can, if you want, you could say, well, you know, gosh, the miners, you know, this farmer should have a bedroom. You know, we'll go and we'll give the militia commander. Well, actually, the militia commander can sleep in the barracks. We'll give the expedition leader a nice bedroom here. All right. So we can go do that. The rest of them we'll just leave for now, and we'll see what people end up claiming. I believe, have to actually designate them as bedrooms before people will claim them. All right. He's bringing his door. We got a bunch of idle people. So this is my problem, is I have a hard time keeping track of all of the various responsibilities. And what I end up doing, even when I'm playing with something like Dwarf Therapist, which is an alternate UI for designating jobs, is I find, especially in the early game, I just end up telling everyone to do everything, which is totally not very efficient, but there you go. You know, I figure they're communist dwarves, it's all good. All right, let's go up to the top. What do we got here? So our stone crowd, our clothier's not doing anything. You know, I think the expedition leader, I don't mind him not doing anything, because, no, I do, because I want him to make mechanisms. So that's one thing I told you, is I didn't have anyone doing mechanisms. So let's go here, and I'm going to turn on mechanics. Where is it? It's engineering. Mechanics. All right, so now that we have someone who's theoretically able to make mechanisms, even though he has no particular skill in it, he should go off. And there he goes. He is right over in the upper right-hand corner, building. He just built a mechanics workshop. And we'll build a few different mechanisms. Mechanisms in Dwarf Fortress are used for a lot of stuff. Probably the most common use is traps. They're used for wells. That's, in fact, the immediate need, is I've built this well, and I need to I need a mechanism to build it. So returning to the question of our well, hopefully we have a grate here. So we're going to say build a wall grate. I do have one. So now I'm going to show you an example of Dwarf Fortress at its most annoying. When I place this grate, you have no control over where the guy or girl dwarf who's going to build it is going to stand. And so you've got a 50-50 chance that the moron will put the grate up and in the process wall themselves in like Montrezor from A Cask of Amontillado. Yes, I know he didn't wall himself in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say we're going to put the grate here, and then I'm going to say, I don't know if this actually works, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to say we're going to construct a wall beneath it. And then I'm going to immediately, this is like the most micromanagey thing. This is Dwarf Fortress at its worst. Then I'm going to say here, I'm going to suspend the wall. And in theory, I think that should make the guy putting the grate in place not stand on the place where the wall's supposed to be built. Let's see what happens. I bet he's going to wall himself in. No. All right, good. So now we have this grate. We can now remove this fake construction. We can go back up a level. And now we will actually dig out this little channel bit here. All right. Any of my guys going? Oh, our peasant is now telling a story. I feel like this story feature is new since I last played the game. This is not a great story. In the early summer of 1050, the dwarf Zulgar Clashbroke became a member of the Violent Paint. The Violent Paint is my guy's group. So who is Zuglar? Zuglar is the Weaver. So he's listening to a story. Do I have to go back to get the next line of the story, or is that the level I get? I think that's the level I get. I don't think you actually get more detail. Okay, so autumn just happened. Now I noticed that because I was looking at the bottom of the screen and it said autumn has come. If you use the Lazy Noobs pack, one of the quality of life things it has is something called Sound Sense, that they've added a bunch of funny quotes and more sound effects. As things happen, it plays sound effects appropriate to what happens. And you think, well, that could get really annoying really fast, and sometimes it does. But largely it helps you because it would have been very easy for me to completely miss that it was autumn. So in this case, it actually would have been very useful. So let's go and plant more plump helmets here. And let's see how we're doing for drink. Okay, we got plenty of drink, but you see all these question marks. This means that we don't have any precision in our counts. We don't really know what we have. And that's because we don't have a broker. And that's because I've been waiting for them to build a chair. They have built a chair. So I'm going to put a chair here. And I will show you what I think as a computer programmer is one of the most interesting aspects of Dwarven society, which is their counting system, which I don't understand at all. But I'll show it to you. And we can, okay, there's the chair. All right, I'm going to pause the game. And what we'll do is, actually, let's make the noble first. So who's lazy? This clothier is fishing. The farmer isn't doing anything. We've got a shearer. I kind of want to put the shearer in the military. So let's take this clothier and make him our broker. So you can see we have a few roles here that are vacant. Not broker, bookkeeper. Sorry, I keep saying broker when I mean bookkeeper. All right. So let's blank. Pat says, I'm making a mechanism bangs rocks together until they form brood of gears. This is Unix. I know this. All right. So who did I say? I wanted the clothier. All right. So we're going to say, you dude, you're the bookkeeper. All right. Immediately, you see that red thing there. He tells me, I can't be a bookkeeper, dude. I have no office. I say, I got you covered. You need a meager office. I have a meager office for you. I've turned this into a throne room or study, and I assign it to the bookkeeper. All right, so now he has what he needs. So now let's get to what I was talking about. We're going to go to bookkeeper, and I mean, any of you who use Macs, I'm sure you're horrified every step of the way that every bit of UI in this game is bespoke and different from every other bit of UI. So here's an example. These are the list of nobles, right? And then for most of them, you have no options. And then for this one, this S setting suddenly goes, I don't know if you can see that change, goes active, and you could set bookkeepers. You could set his precision. So you can see here we could set the precision where the natural precision is kind of this potentially thousands off from what you actually have. So if you have 8,000 of something, maybe they'll tell you that you have 7,700. So we're just going to set that to highest precision. And that should, in a just world, make the bookkeeper go sit in that chair forever. And then at some point we will know exactly what we have in the fortress. All right, so I was talking about, I feel like I keep doing digression upon digression. I hope it's interesting. Tell me later. Let me give you another example of Dwarf Fortress at its worst. They're all listening to a story. Okay, I gotta know what the story is. Yeah, it's not very interesting. All right. let's talk about selection. So I'm going to pause the game again. We'll go up to the top here. Right? Here are different ways to select things in Dwarf Fortress. If I want to designate an area, or say that we're going to, specify an area to do something, one way I can do it for certain user interfaces is I go to one corner, I hit enter, and you can see, I don't know if you can see, it's very hard to see even on this screen, it's blinking. Then you go to the other corner, and you hit enter again, and now you've selected a square area. Okay, you say, that doesn't seem so bad. What's so bad about that? Well, in other interfaces, for seemingly no reason whatsoever, let's say you want to build a wall. So we're going to build a wall. So W, how do you want to place this wall? In this case, we have this green X on the screen when I'm moving around. You could say, let's make the wall wider. And let's make the wall higher. And I mean, it's a rectangular area. There are two completely different ways to designate rectangular areas. I'm also sure that there's a third designation, a third way of designating paths and things that is completely out of my head right now. When I think of it, I'll mention it. All right, so we're just going to let this run for a while. Let's see. Oh, I should have a mechanism now. So now, right, this is our channel. You could see we dug that small channel, and now this well area is full of water. So now I should be able to build a well if I have everything I need. I think I do. I'm going to build it here. I have a bunch of blocks. I'll use a block, rope, and mechanisms. All right. So there you go. So now they will build a well. And the only reason you need the well is for when people get sick. Dwarves drink alcohol all the time. That's all they drink. But when they get sick, they drink water. So I don't know what that means. I think maybe they should, take better care of their health. I mean, but be that as it may. There are many types of alcohol. In the common case, so you can see here we have these barrels here. Most of these are probably full of stuff like dwarven wine. Here we go, dwarven wine. Description. Can I get description? No, it just says it's a stack of dwarven wine. The different types of wine are made from different plants. Oh, there's dwarven wine, which is made from, I think, mushrooms. Go figure. There's dwarven ale and beer, one of which is made from wheat and the other is made from a different fiber called pigtails. And then there's dwarven rum, which is made from sugar, which comes from something called sweet pod, which is yet another sort of crop. When the dwarves are thirsty, and this is something else I want to ask Patrick about, generally what they do is they walk up to a barrel and they upend the barrel and they drink it straight from the barrel and then they put it down. In Patrick's stream, he said that they could use mugs to drink. And this is completely shocking to me. This is like a brand new world that I did not know existed. So I want to find out, like, do I have to do anything to get them to use the mugs, or do they claim a mug for their own? Is there a communal mug storage? All right, so a caravan, here comes our caravan. So they just arrived, and you can't see this. This is down here right on the very bottom of the screen. You can see there's like two H's. Those are two horses pulling a wagon with a guy in it. So there's a bunch of wagons. They are going to eventually come up here to the trading depot. So I'm going to go ahead and move some goods to the trading depot. In particular, I'm just going to move crafts. All right, we have a bunch of crafts. Not that many, actually. My crafts dwarf has been a bit of a slacker, but that's fine. We shouldn't need much for this first trade. Largely, the point of the first trade is not really to get a lot of stuff, although it's nice if you do. Some people like to live dangerously and embark without an anvil, so the first trade is to get your anvil. I actually embarked with an anvil this time. And now the expedition leader from our or the liaison from the mountain homes wants to talk contracts with me. And this is a long negotiation where they give us some news. They tell us that various people were kidnapped. And they say what they want, and you say what you want. So anything you tell them you want, in theory, they're more likely to bring more of it. In practice, doesn't seem to make that much of a difference. And it will mean that their prices go up for that, but that's fine. So I'm just going to say I want, more wood, basically, because I really don't want to have to go into that cavern area. So we'll just say that. I'm sure there's some min-maxing game one can play with telling them to bring things. I haven't figured it out at all. Likewise, then they're going to tell you, so here you can see the prices, and then for the wood, they're going to charge me more for wood, but hopefully they'll bring more. And then they're going to tell us what they want. And so if you care, you can make more of those things. So they want threads and sheets, and crutches. I can make them crutches if they bring me wood. And they want ash. I'm not going to make them ash. So headwear. They're not, really what I want is I want them to want crappy little rock trinkets. That would be ideal, but that's what we're going to sell them regardless of what they actually want. All right, so now that they're unpacked, I'm going to request that the trader come to the depot. How are we doing for time here? I think we've got about 15 more minutes before my voice gives out. So we'll call it quits at that point. Even though not much has happened, but the traders did arrive. Okay, is that my guys at the video. Welcome to the horrible Dwarf Fortress trading interface. So basically, this on the left in the white is the list of what they're offering. This, sorry, that was on the left. This on the right is the list of what I've got to sell. The cost is the thing with the little asterisk next to it. The thing with the thing that looks like a sickle is the weight. Now, the first time I played this game, I didn't really know that, and I bought a bunch of super heavy things, and it didn't end well for my dwarves. So what am I going to get here? Well, they have some wood, so I'm going to go ahead and buy all the wood. And the wood is cheap too, which is nice. So if you're going to have a shortage of something, wood is not a terrible thing to have a shortage of. And then there's this whole optimization haggling game where the traders will reject the trades if they're not making enough profit. I usually just give them their profit, because if you're taking the many crappy rock crafts path, you will have plenty left over. Usually, other things I look for cheap cages, right? And that's always a good thing to do because you can use them in traps. And getting animals is not terrible. Animals in Dwarf Fortress come in cages if they're not wild animals. And any animal in a cage is in complete suspended animation. So you don't so much have to worry about feeding them if you just leave them in a cage. And so I'll do that. I don't know if they'll ever change that. Let's see. What else they got here? Bunch of buckets.